Senator Bernie Sanders, he did something very interesting, called out CNN on CNN over the big unspoken thing often on outlets like CNN, which is ownership. Who owns the platforms, the companies that end up disseminating information? And I'll talk about how there are also real problems with independent outlets like mine. And so it's not that we're saying, as I think some people do a little bit too much, which is the issues with corporate media mean that we're over here perfect on our end. That's not true. But the very real issues with the incentive structure of an outlet like CNN, even though an outlet like CNN is far better than Fox News, for example, but there are still massive incentive structure problems. One of them being very wealthy, powerful people ultimately call the shots. And when you're trying to run an outlet that should be so focused on challenging and being skeptical of the powerful, there's a conflict of interest there for sure. Bernie Sanders made that point about so many outlets recently, especially with like the Washington Post, for example, where we've seen a complete bending of the knee by their owner, Jeff Bezos, to Donald Trump. While you watch this, please do click the subscribe button if you appreciate this show.
It's about, you have Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post. Mr. Musk already owns Twitter. You have other billionaires owning the major media outlets in this country. CNN, if you look at who owns them, you're looking at large Wall Street firms. So you already have a major, serious problem in terms of ownership of the media. If Musk ends up owning TikTok, it'll only make a bad situation much worse.
What did you, and maybe you didn't notice this, we have a picture of it, but there was at one point where Shou Chew, the CEO of TikTok, who has ingratiated himself with Trump's circle, was seated next to Tulsi Gabbard, Trump's pick to be the director of national intelligence, who might get confirmed by the body you're in, we'll see. What do you, just to see them sitting together at an event like this, does that bother you?
No, I don't know how they make their seating arrangements. I don't think that's all that important. What is important is that you have a small number of very wealthy people who own the media, who in recent months have kind of caved in to Trump. You're having Trump suing various media outlets, and it's going to result, I think, in a fear of the media standing up to Trump, worrying about being sued, worried about other problems. But bottom line is that the First Amendment is enormously important. We need media who are fearless in speaking out on the issues of the day, and you're not going to have that when you have a small number of very wealthy people controlling what we see, hear, and read.
It's huge. It is so crucial. And a lot of people within MAGA will say, yeah, we agree with that. Oh, the media is owned. But number one, they'll connect that to conspiracy theories about some globalist cabal that's doing things they're not doing. But also in their mind, it's all about the liberal media. The liberal media is biased in these ways, but not the outlets that I go to, right? But in reality, the most blatant example of the billionaire alliance with people in power, or the billionaire presence in position of power, or just wealthy folks, is Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Elon Musk being able to purchase a platform that has such a huge impact on our political dialogue and then leverage the ownership of that platform in Trump's direction. Rupert Murdoch for so long doing a similar thing with Fox News. And then, yes, you have ownership of media outlets that creates a sort of conflict of interest with quote unquote liberal outlets as well. But interestingly, the one I'm about to talk about isn't them leveraging the platform to help liberal candidates, but actually the opposite, as The Guardian reports. Deeply alarmed Washington Post staff request meeting with Jeff Bezos. Journalists say in letter, trust has been lost and seek in-person meeting with billionaire owner over paper's future. Over 400 staff members at the Washington Post have sent a letter to Jeff Bezos asking for a meeting with him during a time of widespread concern about the future of the newspaper. What happened here was that Bezos in numerous ways has bent the knee, placated, and supported Trump in a concerning manner, especially when one of the ways he did that was preventing the Washington Post editorial board from endorsing the Democratic presidential candidate as they had in many elections. And he said, no, you can't do that. You can't endorse Vice President Harris. So it's not just that he donated to Trump's inaugural fund. It's not that he's just trying to ingratiate himself by meeting with Trump and these different steps with Trump. It's that he's using his ownership of a major media platform to do so, which does create a media environment that is not serving the people as it should. And one of the things that Bernie mentioned there, that is the chief example of the concern in our current moment with media, is that Trump is actually successfully scaring these outlets. And if the reason he's calling out the wealthy ownership is because usually it's them saying, we're scared of retribution, so let's not do X, Y, or Z. It's usually the people at the top making these decisions of bending the knee. A good example is ABC with the settlement. And another is there were reports that CBS is considering settling their lawsuit with Trump, which will be articulated by Trump and by many in the media to be a win, an admission of guilt even, when CBS is just terrified that Trump's going to try to go through on getting their platform ripped off the air, which is his threat. Mark Zuckerberg changing Meta rules to be more advantageous to Trump after Trump talked about if he's guilty of crimes. What crimes? Election interference was the allegation for Trump. I'm going to put him in jail. Zuckerberg's and all these terrible things. Now Zuckerberg donating to Trump, changing his platform. So all these social media platforms and media, mainstream media platforms have these massive conflicts of interest in the form of the folks who run them being afraid of Donald Trump. And even if hardworking journalists, even if Caitlin Collins would be willing to undergo threats but continue doing good journalism, if their boss says, nope, we're settling this, or we're changing the way that we run this platform or whatever, then that's going to be what ends up happening. And so that's why, especially in this current moment, it's always an important point. Bernie's been making it for a long time. Make sure you look into, and it's not to discredit all of these outlets. Again, I'm about to get to the problems with independent outlets too, but you should just keep it in mind in consuming information from platforms that, just like every media outlet and platform, has a conflict of interest. So I keep mentioning independent media just to show you this isn't just about benefiting the space that I'm in. While there are a lot of benefits to having an outlet that isn't a corporate outlet, I know other outlets aren't the same, even in this space, but I, for example, don't have any big donor funding this or a big company that is owned by that has the ultimate say, and I can really do whatever I want. But with us, it's more about, and you have to be thinking of this as well, number one, and this is all media, engagement selling. And so what might people be doing to stimulate engagement? And then number two, audience capture. So because money can prop up mainstream outlets, even when sometimes they're failing to tap in great to the audiences, but they're one of the main outlets that are on TV, so they're kind of, the audience members are a little bit limited in their options. For outlets like mine and people with independent online platforms, the problem is you're desperately trying to hold an audience. And so sometimes you see people just increasingly give an audience what they want, whether or not it's correct, whether or not it's accurate. It's something I try very hard not to do. It's one of the reasons Jaden goes through and gives me more summarizations than individual examples of feedback that we get, as opposed to me just spending all day long reading all these different comments and emails and all of that stuff. Because I think there are so many examples of people being pushed by their audience into more radical positions, because the loud minority of an audience can seem really, really loud. And you can end up thinking, wait, is this what my audience wants? And then you give it to them, audience capture, instead of just being true to the facts and to yourself. But you have to work really hard to be good on that. And then the engagement selling point, if outrage, if crazy, wild stories that will stimulate all of this attention, even if it's not the correct story to put out there, That's the one that's going to make more money. And so it's another reason why I encourage you all to find outlets and individuals that have demonstrated themselves to put facts over stimulating feelings in the audience, and to stay consistent to important media principles, regardless of if that boosts their platform the most, and then support them. Because otherwise, if you just let only what sells in the algorithm guide the stuff that you're consuming, then we're going to get the most outrageous things succeeding more, because that's what stimulates the most amount of engagement. So that's the independent, prioritizing engagement over accurate and factual analysis, and audience capture, trying to give your audience what they want as opposed to what they may need or what would be more responsible to give them. In the case of big corporate outlets, it's whoever's running those platforms and the conflict of interest that creates. And so calling both out, I think, is the correct approach, as opposed to just, I'm an independent outlet, so everything's perfect with our space. We should only think it's the big corporate outlets that have problems. We all have problems to different extents, and all of it should be called out. And especially in the era of Trump and the oligarchy that's developing, that has been for a long time and is being exacerbated by who Trump is empowering and the policies he seems to want to pursue, we should be calling out those very wealthy, influential, and powerful folks who create major conflicts of interest. I think Bezos being a really perfect example of how bad that can get. Here's Ari Melber, since Elon Musk was also brought up, talking about another example of the corruption or borderline corruption going on, this time with Elon Musk.
Trump administration is pushing many policies, different messages, some important, some distracting. And some of them are designed to get you focused on one thing when they're doing other things. That may be familiar from following Donald Trump's past campaigns, but there are many things behind the scenes. We recently reported on government advisor Elon Musk exploiting his role to promote the crypto he owns. What you're looking at is part of our coverage on that previously. He named his government group after his cryptocurrency coin, which is named after a dog, which is why you see that image on screen when we reported on it, which is really no different than trying to rename a government department after Coke or Tesla. I mention that because now Musk's taxpayer-funded .gov website for his Trump policy group promotes the same crypto coin. Again, you see a different version of that dog. So day one, Donald Trump's chosen advisor, Elon Musk, is taking your taxpayer dollars and promoting his crypto businesses, stuff that he owns. He owns some of that. And the product, which is a crypto coin with this dog here, has nothing to do with cutting government spending or anything related. He's not even pretending. It's just a blatant grift. And we documented that then. Trump is clearly now echoing this approach. He's just launched a new digital currency, which may show where some of his focus has been, even as he begins the big job of president. And this is a big deal. This is not just some sort of side concern or like selling, T-shirts and merchandise. We are in kind of the Trump honeymoon period here. We are on, the first full day, and yet the conservative Murdoch-owned Wall Street Journal already blowing the whistle, noting Trump benefits directly from the sale of these new crypto tokens, while setting the very federal policies that affect how these crypto markets are valued and regulated. So for a financial publication and its readers in Wall Street, that's an obvious conflict of interest, even if you like other policies of the incoming president.
Yeah, that's out of control. And this is especially in a second term for Trump, where he doesn't feel the need to keep as much support as he would have needed, did need before for elections. The corruption, and like I said, perceived corruption, potential corruption, is getting more and more brazen. And it's, as I'll continue to say, it is disturbing to me that the followers of Trump who want the swamp drained don't care if the people that they've selected to drain the swamp, they just may drain the swamp. They're just filling it up with something far more disgusting than a much more swampy swamp than was there even before. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you want to support this show, you can do it I mentioned supporting shows. If you want to do this one, if you think this one's pretty good, you can do it by clicking the join button below.